Hello and welcome back. This is the second part of building an auto miner. You don't have to have watched the first part because a lot of that was just constructing this and going over basic AI. If you know all that, then you've already got it covered. This is more about the troubleshooting process now, getting this thing actually working and doing exactly what we want. Now, we hit a few problems. So last time we found that, one, the ejectors weren't doing a good enough job of keeping the drills empty, so that what was happened is the drills got filled up with stone and ice and would not then drill through the other stuff that we wanted at the bottom. We also found that it was getting too heavy with the drills included, so we're going to need to add some more thrust to this. We're also going to need to add a few more event blocks on there because I want to start playing with altitude. There's another problem that I found in testing that we didn't actually show very well. And that is basically once the move controller gets up to like 0, so ground level, it doesn't want to go any higher. And I think the problem with that is with the move controller wanting to stay above 0, it's not going to want to go across that ground barrier. So we're going to need to take care of that somehow as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at adding a bit more thrust to this build. So we're going to squeeze in a few more of these thrusters. We're going to add them to the group. And then we're going to try and get this thing going so it can actually handle all the extra weight. I'm using build vision for this. There we go. Right, let's get these added to the group. So those should be treated with the rest of the thrusters just fine. So yeah, just to recap on what we're actually doing here as a project, we are aiming to build this auto miner that can go down underground and drill. And we've not seen many examples of that since Grid AI. I'm trying to do this without scripts, and it's going to be fully automated. So it drills down, gets ore, comes back, reconnects to here, dumps the ore into this cargo container here. So another thing we're going to need to do is we're going to have to add a conveyor sorter to here with a blacklist with absolutely nothing on it. And the reason for that is if you blacklist nothing with a sorter, it'll pull everything if you set it to drain all, but it'll also only go one way, so it prevents backfill into the drone. So there's our sorter. Let's check the direction. That way. So the arrows on the sorter point in the direction that you want the ores and stuff to go. And then in the sorter we set it to blacklist as it is. We leave that empty so that we're not blacklisting anything. That essentially means allow everything. And we're going to set it to drain all and just leave it on. So every time this connects with some ores in it, that will pull them out. Okay, so we just have to firstly make sure that the launch controller, which basically says when the cargo is empty, launch the thing, that one needs to be off. Otherwise, yeah, it'll have launched itself. I should have checked that before putting a sorter in. It could have just ended up launching the whole thing. Right, one thing I'm also going to do, because of some changes we're going to make to this, is looking at cargo filled, and we only have the cargo container in place at the moment on this list. So what I'm also going to do is add the drills. We want the drills to also be empty. And we don't need to connect to there, so don't have that going there. Right, there we go. So it'll launch when the whole thing is completely empty. Right, so
fuel critical.
In here we have a conveyor sorter at the bottom there. There it is. That at the moment is set to only allow ores into here. I'm going to change that because half of our problem is these drills get full and then you're also trying to pull ores through to there into this cargo container. If the drills are full, they're not going to do that. But the drills, 4 drills combined, have the same cargo capacity, possibly more, as this cargo container. So if we want 1 cargo container's worth of ores to bring back, it doesn't matter if it's here or in here. We're bringing it back nonetheless. So the idea is we let the drills fill up with stone and ice on the way down, and then what we do, we keep ejecting just so we can allow the normal ores to come through. Once the ores that we want comes through, we set a trigger that tells the sorter, push the rubbish that's in these things here into this cargo container, and then the drills are free to actually gather the ore. Then we come home when it's all full. So with that in mind, our go home full rule also needs to take the drills into account. So we're not going home until we are fully full. Okay, the next thing we need to consider is basically how do we know when to let the sorter allow all the rubbish that's in the drills to backwash into this cargo container, freeing up the drills to collect ore. How do we know when to do that? So what we're going to do is we're going to have kind of like the rule we got in there at the moment where it says only let ores into here. Instead of doing it to there, we're going to only allow ores into our little cargo container. If we can set it so it only allows ores into the little container at first, this will fill up much quicker. So what we need to do then is set an event that says when there's anything in this little cargo container, even a little bit, you're at the ores, let all the rubbish through and let the drills gather the ores. L, normal, where's the sorter gone? There we are. Sorter to return. So we've got a circular path here. So basically the ores comes out through there, in there, gathers in there if it's ore, and then when we open the path back up, it can come through there and back out the way it came in. So let's have a look at our events. So we have all our event controllers and such here. We have a launch event which says once the cargo containers are empty, launch this thing back into the ground or do your first launch. We have a go home event. The go home event for when it's full says once the cargo is full, start returning home. Connected event says once you're connected to the connector, turn everything off, start recharging, the usual sort of, standby, stop and wait. Event connect is the bit just before that. So once it's in range of the connector, it tells it to get connected. And to prevent that from kicking in every time you disconnect, our connected event turns that off. We have a low battery go home. And then we have a battery full event that says once you've recharged after a low battery go home, relaunch. Okay, we need a new event controller. Yet another one. We're going to call this one sample detected. Sample detected. So on this one, we're going to use the cargo filled rule. We only need to see a very tiny amount. Let's say 1%. And we're looking for our sample container. Cargo sample. Right at the top. Okay, so when the cargo sample container has 1% or more, then what we want to do is we want to tell the sorter, that one, not that one, to be on. So that'll let the floodgates through, and the rest should take care of itself. That should, in theory, solve our problem where we're just drilling through the ore and gathering nothing. Now we also need a rule to say turn that back off. So in the launch event, actions, because this one's got loads of room, yeah, there we are, turn this one back off. That means once we relaunch, well, once an automatic launch happens after it's gone through the process of coming home, dumping all the cargoes into there, and it triggers the launch event, it will turn that sorter back off. So we're empty, the sorter's off, and we're only filling the drills at that point, and the sample container when it finds the ores it needs. Okay, now, providing I've set everything up correctly, and that I've not missed something critical between last recording and this recording, we should be ready to go. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to save 1.7 again. and see if this is actually a 1.7 build. Right. Hopefully I haven't forgotten something. I have forgotten something. So that didn't work. It went home because it thought it was entirely full straight away. Cargo is filled greater than... oh, it needs to be 100% for starters. And we're looking at AND gate. You have to have an AND gate on, otherwise it'll look at the first thing to get full and say you're done. And then secondly, it didn't come home. I think the first thing we need to do is look at the recorder. There is a waypoint, but I'm going to delete that waypoint and I am going to add a new one. Now ideally what's going to happen is as soon as we hit the silicon, the sample container should fill with some silicon, which should then open the floodgates, allow the cargo container to take the chaff out of the drills to fill up with silicon, and then the whole thing to return. If it can fly. Now when you're doing a prototype build like this, one of the things you really need to consider is what would you consider to be a success goal. And in this case our initial success goal would be this goes down, gathers a drill load of ores, brings it back, empties, launches automatically and does it again a second time without dying. Another thing to consider when building these sorts of projects is reproducibility. How easy would it be to reproduce the drone once you've made it? So luckily this thing is quite compact. It should be able to be fully welded up just by a couple of welders. So I would consider this one a pass on reproducibility. The last thing to consider with any kind of a prototype is also ease of use. So is the drone easy to operate? Given that hopefully it's going to be fully automatic and all you have to do is press 2 buttons to launch it. So I would say that's a big win for ease of operation. I still really need to put some indicator lights on this. Something that says I'm doing this and then I'm doing this. Cargo sample picked something up, so that should have triggered that. Drills are still kind of empty. Large cargo container didn't get much back, so sorter's turned itself back off again. Which means we may have a conflicting rule. Yeah, it's back off again. Okay, we have conflicting rules. I wonder if that cargo filled greater than or equal to AND gate again. Launch when the cargo is less than or equal to 0. Okay.
Fuel critical.
Right, a few little bugs in the system there. 3, 2, 1, launch. At the moment I can see 2 potential challenges. Is it able to actually lift off, or is it too heavy? We've added extra thrust, so it should be able to lift off. Challenge number 2, does it get past this boundary? Large cargo container has nothing in it. Sample container has nothing in it. The thing that went wrong there was, I think the spitting out of all the stuff was getting in the way of the drills detecting the silicon, so I've removed those. And we're just going to do a 1.7 save, and we'll go. So 3, 2, 1, go. Bounced a little bit there. Okay, so that last run ran into a few problems. Firstly, the hole was drilling a bit wonky, so I've turned the gyros overrides off. Just going to let gravity do its work and see what it can do. I've added an extra down thrust and removed the ejectors because I believe the ejectors were, like in a previous run, getting in the way, so we don't have them anymore, so that space was freed up for another thruster. We've added some more batteries so we don't run into any kind of a power problem. And because the cargo wasn't getting fully full on the drills, for some reason a couple of the drills were just like a little bit short. So I've lowered the requirement for a cargo full to 95% for it coming home. I've also set all of the down thrusters to full override on the small ones, with just a large one that's going to be doing the controlling. So when we launch, if this just hovers there, we'll lower the down thrust just enough so it starts to drift downwards in a straight line. So let's just see how this goes anyway. 3, 2, 1, launch. Let's check what's actually running on this thing. So let's see our down thrust first. On. They're all on. So it seems like this hole's drilling a lot straighter this time. So turning off the gyro overrides was a good idea. And I would theorize that that's because if the rig gets like kind of kicked to the side by uneven drilling, or it just sort of glancing off the side a little bit, then with the gyro overrides being on, it's going to be a lot harder for the rig to right itself. Okay, we're approaching the point where we're expecting this to hit silicon. Again, the drills aren't quite full, so let's see how full did that get according to the event controller. Threshold 95. Some of these drills are only getting to about 92. So the minimum's at like 92%. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this rule to 90%. Okay. Now this is it attempting to come home. Maybe precision mode's an issue. And we probably need to taper in the edges a little bit so that they can slide past a bit easier. So we got that far. Let's see if we play the task again, just to know if it's actually a problem with the So that's about as far as it wants to go. Let's see what the altitude thing's reading. Input is -8 meters. Okay, so it can do minuses on here. So this is effectively useless because you can't go negative in the altitude controller. So we need to remove that. And then we still have the problem of this thing not wanting to go any further. So let's rerun the recorded task now that the altitude block's off. So yeah, it gets confused at this point. It doesn't really know what to do. Let's turn collision avoidance off. Okay, so we need to turn collision avoidance off at some point. I don't know why it's turning over. So last time we learnt that the whole altitude thing's a load of rubbish. The altitude controller can actually read negative altitudes even though our HUD won't. But the altitude controller also can't do anything below 1 meter. It has no logic for that, so we can't use it for that. So instead we're using the altitude controller to control whether collision avoidance is on. So we turn on precision and we turn off collision avoidance when we get above the ground to connect to the connector, and we reverse that once we're in the hole. So in the hole, collision avoidance is on, but precision mode is off. It was precision mode that was stopping it from getting out. I've also added a few extra thrusters like we did last time, but I've just made them a bit tidier. So that's that. We got rid of all the overrides. We'll let dampening do the job for most of that. There is still possibly the problem of orientation not properly saving on the waypoint like it should. So when it comes to getting out of here, we could have a little bit of an issue with that, potentially. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, launch. Okay, so too many thrusters turning on at the beginning. So I think the first thing we need to do is start turning off thrusters, taking them out of the dampen thrust group. There we go. So override on max override on atmospheric thrusters is not as strong as just allowing it to dampen. Now the changes we've made this time, the drills will stay on when it comes back as well. So besides the altitude things, we will still have the drill return. Now while that's drilling down, we possibly need to make a modification to this. So we are going to what we'll need for this to be automatic is some sort of a sensor that senses the drone in the hole. We should be very close to silicon right now, or in it. In fact, it may be already attempted to come back. I think it is. Just rerun this task block. It might have got stuck a bit. Oh no, it's still going. It's still trying. I think it's just thinking. Okay, it definitely stopped that time. I wonder if like hitting repeat on there to make it keep repeating would do a good job or not. Huh. Blew something up. I don't know what. Right, let's try this task recorder block now. So right, what we're going to do, I'm going to take control again. Oh, hang on. Right, I'm going to turn behaviour off again now. Okay, we're off to one side this time, so if I exit out of here, move the truck forward a little bit. Now what I can do is I can clear the waypoints and redo them. Another waypoint. Another waypoint. Okay, so we've rescued it this time. We don't need to start all over again. I have no idea what blew up. Aha. We lost at least one thruster from there. Oh, it's going again. Because that was an unexpected launch. I think having the task block on repeat might actually be making a difference. Still doesn't seem to know what to do with this part. Well, that's not good. Oh god. Where are you going? I have no idea where this thing's trying to go. Okay, we got it there after much drama and damage. definitely some waypoint confusion going on here, which is a bit odd. Waypoint 0, let's remove that again. And add a new waypoint. We may need additional sideways thrusts. Okay, better armoured now. Should help avoid a lot of the damage that we saw before. Oh, it launched itself. Perfect. May have been waiting for the batteries to fill up. Now I wonder with the extra weight if it's going to work properly or not. We're going to have to see. I am going to extend this piston, give it an easier way back to the thing. Now we may want to try and do some sort of an anchor on the vehicle to stop it moving. For that reason. Well, so far it's done 2 whole runs by itself. And it's on its 3rd. Now if you wanted this to just drill out everything, then you would just basically need to change the... Oh, that's good. Ah. That's a pretty accurate lock. And that thing's off for another run. Luckily the drills are taking most of the bashing on the way down, and they should be able to handle it. The thrusters there are sort of slowing its descent. I could probably keep the side thrusts on to give some extra stability. Bingo. Turn you off. Burst the piston. I would call that a definite success. So I think the next question would be, how do we advertise this thing? Do you wish that somebody else would do your mining for you? Are you tired of long nights of mining in deep holes? Introducing Auto Miner 3000 prototype. Complete with indicator lights, ergonomic design, and a fully automated mining system that will drill your deepest holes and return every time. Coming to the workshop soon.